So far in this class, we've been writing code without really thinking about how the interpreter is going to read it. And what I mean by that is not the individual statements or functions, we've talked about those, but the visual picture of what we're writing, the indentation, the way we separate things into individual lines, and things like that. Every language is different in the way it handles this. If you've studied C++, you're familiar with things like this. If in C++ we need a parentheses, response equals 2, and then we have these curly braces, and maybe a bunch of statements inside the curly braces. And we also have to end each statement with a semicolon in C++. In C++, the white space doesn't really matter. We could write our whole program on one line, and C++ would have no problem with that. Python is a little different. Python actually uses the visual structure of your code to get clues about what you want to do. It's a lot like writing an outline for an English paper. Suppose you're writing a paper called My Future. So my future might include college, might include career, and maybe family. Under colleges, I might be trying to decide between UC Berkeley and Stanford, and so on. Because we're used to looking at outlines like this, the visual clues in the outline help someone understand how I plan to break up my paper. Everything in this block is going to be about college. It all belongs to my future, but specifically it will be about college. Everything in this block is going to be about UC Berkeley, and here about Stanford. And it's the indentation, or maybe the dashes, that give us those clues. And Python works exactly the same way. I've created a function definition here, followed by a colon. The colon indicates that a code block follows. The code block includes everything at one level of indentation underneath the function definition, as well as anything that's further indented within that block. We can draw a line, and everything at this level of indentation, until we hit something less indented, belongs to this function, main. The result is that when this function is called, the interpreter will execute the unindented statements one after another until it reaches the end of the function. There are some statements that will end the function early, like a return statement, and others, like the if block, that may cause some further indented code to be executed. But notice that just like our outline, the most indented code belongs to the statement above it, which in turn belongs to the statement above that one. You can think of indentation as a kind of grouping symbol. All of these statements are grouped together and belong to the function main. Unlike languages like C++, Python doesn't use a semicolon to terminate a line. Python just assumes that when you get to the end of the line, that's the end of the statement that you intended to make. If you press enter, the next line starts a new statement. This can be at odds, though, with the idea that a line should be no longer than 79 characters. I have Python set up to draw this line at the 79th character, so I know that this line is too long. But if Python sees the end of the line as the end of my statement of code, how can I possibly break this up to satisfy the 79 character rule? It turns out there are two ways to do that. First, if you have a grouping symbol, like a parentheses, a curly brace, or a square brace, then we're free to just end the line early. PyCharm will help us with this. If I choose a place that seems like a good place to split up my line and push enter, then Python terminates our string with double quotes and starts again on the next line, indenting this visually so that it looks nice. And this will have no effect on our code. We can do the same thing down here. But what if we had a line that didn't have a grouping symbol? Here we have a string assignment, but no parentheses. In this case, we need to use something called a continuation character. If we want to break up this line, again, PyCharm will help us with this. We'll choose a rational place to break the line, maybe here. Press enter. Python adds the closing quotes, but also a backslash, which tells the interpreter that we're not quite done with this statement of code. Look on the next line to find the rest. PyCharm also indents this visually for us. And of course, you can use the backslash character while you're typing. But then you'll have to take care of the indentation yourself. Notice that even though this is indented, this is not a new code block. It's just a continuation of the previous line. There's no colon here. there is a backslash character indicating a continuation, and this line wouldn't make any sense on its own. Similarly here, the indentation does not indicate a new code block. Python knows that it wasn't finished processing this statement because it has an open parentheses with no matching close parentheses. So it continues processing on the next line and ignores the white space.